Hey guys, at San Scholastica and beyond. If can't tell if there's other people in there who are watching this in the future. Uh, but for now, it's hi guys. Couple disclaimers. It's very late at night, and we drove 15 hours today. I'm gonna do that a lot, and I'm not trying to get somebody's attention because there's nobody over there. I'm just clearing my throat because I have I have a baby monitor over here because a child is asleep upstairs at this house that I'm at in Evansville, Indiana. If the baby screams, I'm gonna pause. You don't have to like wait for me, but I'm gonna leave. So there might be a cut and edit. Just deal with it. It's okay. You'll have kids someday. They're gonna scream right at you. They'll look at you in the eye and you'll be like, "Don't do it," and they'll be like, "Rah!" And then you'll be like, "Don't," and then they'll poop on your carpet. So anyway, let's start. So you guys have heard a little bit. You've learned a little bit about theology of the body up till now, and so I want to cover a couple of concepts before we kind of get into more the ability to have conversations about hard hitting things. I just wanted to cover some really basic things, and a lot of it we did in the video you saw already. But I wanted tonight, whatever time of day. Gosh, we shouldn't be so specific. I'm not going to put you in a box. You watch this whenever you want to. Okay? Okay. I want to cover. I know I mentioned Humane Vitae way back in one of the videos you watched. But Humane Vitae lays out what has become known as the four marks of God's love. So marks or characteristics of. So in Humane Vitae, not like in a list format, but they kind of flesh out the four characteristics of God's love. Now, I always make a caveat. There's no such thing as like, you'll hear people, well, that's like church Christian love you're talking about. I'm talking about like human love. So John tells us that God is love. So if he is love, then anywhere that there's real love, that it's because it looks like him. It's the four marks of God's love could also be called just the four marks of love. Because if you're going to say it's love, you can't say like, well, this is human love. There's either love or not love. It is either loving or it isn't. And God is love. So if you're saying you're in a loving relationship, or if you're going to tell somebody that you love them, or somebody is telling you that they love you, it has to look like God would do it, or it isn't love. It doesn't mean you're not trying to love. It doesn't mean we're all trying. I mean, everybody's trying to find love, but it doesn't mean we succeed. It doesn't mean we're doing it right just because we tried. And so, Humane Vitae, and then theology of the body, especially, kind of just enumerates for us. This is what real love looks like. These are the four characteristics, the four marks of real love, of God's love. And so I'm going to go through those four today, and that'll be our chunk of time for now. The first is that real love is always free. I'll tell you ahead of time. All right, we'll pause, go back. If you want to know them ahead of, well, no, I don't know. I'm not going to edit this, so that flub, pretend it was part of the script. The first mark of God's love is freedom. It's free. So there's a couple of meanings behind this, but this ends up being the crux. This is the pivotal point. This first one. That real love, these two aspects of freedom is, first of all, real love will always be free. It will always be not coerced. It can't be at the point of a gun. You don't love somebody because they say, love me. You love me. That's not love. That's force. Real love is freedom. Now, within that, there's two kinds of freedom. There's the external, where you feel pressured to do something. So women often know this feeling, being in a relationship, feeling the external pressure to maybe be more physical in a certain way than they want to yet or at all. They might feel undue pressure from their significant other to take steps that they wouldn't normally want to, or that they might even be uncomfortable with. But they know somehow in there, well, but I have to do this, or the person is passive aggressive, or they're angry or huffy for days, or they'll leave me. I always tell people, like dating relationships, like, if you are aware that, like, if you told your boyfriend, I don't want to hold hands anymore until this is more serious, if you're pretty sure that he would leave, then there's really, you should, well, A, he has a weird obsession with your hand. I don't know. But also, you should just think about that. Well, then he's obviously wanting something that's less than all of it. Because I'm more than just that, just holding your hand. If you like me, if you say you love me, then it has to be more than if I hold your hand or not. And so there, you would be able to sense in there, and most people have felt this, a little bit of like a lack of freedom. And if there's a lack of freedom, then it isn't love. Not that you're not trying to, again, but that it isn't love. Then there's the internal freedom, or opposite of freedom, where you're maybe in a relationship and you don't feel free to say no because internally you're like, I can't say no. This is overpowering. This is the forces of nature. This is what you see in movies where Christopher Russ always talks about, like, just everything comes off the counter and it's just and you'll even hear people say, like, I can't stop thinking about you. Well, if you can't stop, then well, they always say, if you can't say no, then your yes means nothing. If you can't fully just say no just as easily as say yes, then your yes doesn't mean anything. And so if the person you're with makes you feel like you can't say no, then your saying yes to them isn't valid. It's not real. And internally, if you can't say no to this person, then you're not free. I'm a big Hamilton fan, and the line, the song where he's tempted and gives in to temptation and infidelity, is say no to this. And that's the whole chorus is, Lord, help me say no to this. Tell me I don't know how to say no to this. And we all know that. I mean, that's not everyone knows that war. Paul talks about, that thing I want to do, I don't do. And the thing I don't want to do, I do. And I see that there is a war within me. We know that struggle. But real love enters when you are just free to say yes or no. When you're free. When there's no compulsion, internally or externally, you are just free. The other side of freedom is that love doesn't have any price tags. And this is huge. I used to work when I was in college, I worked at this ghetto market, like little supermarket in downtown Minneapolis. And Kenny's Market, in case you want to go. In case you've been. But anyway, we had the old price gun. It's got the little labels, and you cha-ching, 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 and you price everything. Well, without knowing it, you and I, most of us get up every morning and we price tag the heck out of the world. And you're doing it. We all do it. You wake up and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to school today. I'm going to do these things and I'm going to get this back from life. I'm going to get it back. Now, this is okay, I'll do this for my family. Cha-ching, 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 but they owe me this. I'll do this for my department. Cha-ching, 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 for my major. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. I'll do it for my spouse or my boyfriend or girlfriend. Yeah, I'll do this for you. Cha-ching, but there's a price. I'll do this for God. Go to church on Sunday. I'll do the things he asks. Cha-ching, 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 because then he owes me. But the thing is, that's not freedom. You're putting a price tag on every one of your actions. And so the other person, it doesn't take long before they're aware, like, well, you don't ever just do anything for me. There's a price to everything. That's why you get we all know, like, the kind of stereotypical image of the grandma who's, still bitter at life. Like, all my life I did this and nobody ever. We've seen that. That's what that is. That's your parents. Your mom has probably told you, you know what? For 18 years, I cooked, I cleaned, we put a roof over your head, and you want to be like, yeah, I think you were supposed to. I was a child. Like, I didn't know I was entering into a contract with you when I was born. But what happens? You hear that. I did all these things, and what do I get back? What do I get back? All these things I did for you. Well, that sentence right there, like, that's horrible. Like, so you apparently, and that, I always say that. If somebody ever says to you, after all I've done for you, ... I always say, you have every right to just stop them and be like, whoa. Apparently, you didn't do it for me because you're about to put a price on whatever you did. You didn't do it for me. You did it for you. I always say, like, real love is not an investor. You'll hear people say, well, we invest in people. We invest in relationships. You don't, because an investor puts something in hoping to get a greater return. That's not love. Real love is philanthropic. You're a philanthropist. You're a good deed doer. Quote the Wizard of Oz. Real love is just outward. It is about the other person. It flows from towards. So real love would be free then. It wouldn't have price tags. I mean, you would. I remember one time this is years ago. I was massaging my wife's feet at my mom's house, and I was massaging her feet, and my mom was like, nudged my wife and was like, "How do you get him to do that without wanting something later?" And I remember thinking, first of all, you, mom, I'm right here, but also just that mentality, like that. Oh, I'll do this for you. They always say like men will use love to get sex, women will use sex to get love. Well, at the core of that, though, it's using. All the while, it's using. And the problem is, you don't use people; you use objects. And if we're not careful, I mean, and most of us aren't because we don't know to even look for it. What happens is that we end up looking at the entire world as if they're a bunch of ATMs. I mean, you've been to an ATM, you've seen them. We go to an ATM. If you've ever walked up to an ATM and like there's a like out of order sign, or you put your card in and it's like, sorry, out of order. You don't be like, well, I'm going to stay with this one because this is my ATM. This is mine. I will wait forever. No, you're like immediately. You're already looking for the next ATM. Why? Because this is the thing where you punch and you punch codes and you get what you want. And if it's broken, you just go down the block to get what you want from that one. Well, we do that to each other. We treat each other like ATMs. And if you're in a relationship, you know how easy it is to be treated like a ATM, but to treat people like an ATM. It comes so naturally. And so it's not free in that regard because you're in the relationship. You're there, but you're there to get something. And so you've got a price tag. And the person knows it. Okay, I'll do this for you. I will do all these things for you. But I'm going to get paid. And have you ever had those days where you wake up and like as your eyes open, you already feel like Lucifer, like Satan. Like we all have those days where you just wake up and you're already like you're coming down the stairs and your family's like, all right, just get the holy water, call the exorcist because she's coming to breakfast. And we've all had those days. And those are the days where like you see the person at work who's nice and you hate them for it. like those days, I would say 9 times out of 10, before you go to bed, some of you are having that day right now. You're like, please shut up. Shut up, Nick. But on those days, before you go to bed, sit at the end of your bed and just make a list of why you're so sour. 9 times out of 10, it's because you didn't get what you wanted. It's like that. I didn't get what I wanted. I did all these things and I expected to be paid and nobody's paying up, so now I'll make them pay. And so your actions, and you got to see at the core then, you can't love. You can't love fully anyway because your actions aren't free because you have this compulsion of need, but then you're also, everybody around you senses it. No, yeah, they'll do that for you, but they're going to expect something later. And love is not like that. How do we know? Again, these are the 4 marks of God's love. How do we know? Because God only pours out. He just gives, regardless of your response. His mercy is new every morning. The rain falls on the just and the unjust. He just pours out goodness regardless. He let his son die for us, knowing full well that many of us would shun him and turn him away. We would use our free will to turn away. And he still did it. Why? Because his love is free. It is just given. His love is just given. And so the first mark of God's love is freedom. And so if we're going to say we love, then we have to love freely. We have to be free. We have to be free internally in order to, and we have to be free with our actions without price tags so that other people know that they are loved as well and aren't expected of. And again, we know this because God does this. God gives to us with no expectation. So that's the first. Real love is always free. Second, real love is always total. It doesn't hold anything back. Real love doesn't hold anything back, any of itself. God gave his complete self, and continues to in the Eucharist, gave the utmost of the Godhead of divinity. He gave his Son, he gave his Holy Spirit, he gives his very physical presence to us in the Eucharist. He gives completely because he loves. And we all know what it's like to be in a relationship and to hold parts of ourselves back. Guys will do it like stereotypically, and it's okay to actually generalize because generally things are. Don't, we can do a whole separate video on everything I'm saying wrong and I'm not being specific enough. But generally, in relationships, you'll see where guys will, well, okay, yeah, you can have my body for sure, because who wouldn't want this? And you can have, my money or whatever, but my time is my time. I need guides. I need a man cave. I need the hunting season. I need this. This is mine. You don't get this, or you don't get any of my money. Get your own job, type of thing. Like, or just any aspect of life that they retain for themselves. Well, if you won't give all of yourself, and I mean all of yourself, then you, in some way or another, it's not fully love. And I would say this: when you get married, when I got married, I looked at my wife, and in the sacrament, you say to the other person, everything is yours. My hopes, my dreams, my career goals, everything I ever wanted for my life, I've gathered it up and I'm placing it into your hands. And for you right now, if hearing that sentence is scary, then, well, that's good. You should think it through. It is serious. Because to really love is serious. It ends up requiring that level of trust and commitment. But it's worth it. So if you're in a relationship right now where you're like, yeah, I would never trust my boyfriend or girlfriend with my career goals, my hopes and dreams, that's mine. Well, that right there, that's mine. I'm not going to give that. Well, in a loving relationship with God, you would give all that to him. And so the implication is that if you're in a loving relationship, then you can trust the person with that. My wife and I, our marriage struggled. We lived overseas in China. When we moved over there when we were 3 years married, and about a year into our time in China, she hit severe clinical depression. I'm an idiot. I didn't know how to handle that. We didn't know what was going on. Our marriage was falling apart. And one of the main moments of healing that I remember when we were trying to work through things, we were at this little Indian restaurant in China. I remember where we were sitting, and it kind of dawned on both of us that the idea of a ball and chain is that's horrible. Like, I'm not there to weigh you down, and you're not there to weigh me down. And we kind of came to a conclusion that night that, wait a minute, like, I have the privilege and the beauty of trying to help all your dreams come true. I want to make your dreams come true. And she was like, yeah, and I you. And to be able to get to a point where you're like, it would be encouraged that you don't enter into marriage until you're at that point where I can trust this person. I'm not going to take it back. I'm giving you my career goals, my hopes, my dreams, everything I ever held dear. I'm giving them to you because I know I can trust you, and vice versa. And if it seems scary, I'm not sure why my battery is dying. That's bad. My battery might die here. I need to talk faster. If that's scary, then that's good. It should give you pause. You should just think about it. Okay, well, what does this mean? What does this imply for my life? For this relationship that I'm in, or for a relationship that I would get in. I wonder if this is just not charging. Oh, it is. There's power to the microphone. Anyway, so there's that. Free, total. Real love holds nothing back. It holds absolutely nothing back. And how do we know? Because these are the 4 marks of God's love. And God didn't hold anything back, even to giving his own son. And the Son loved the Father so much that he didn't hold his life back and gave it up. And the Trinity loved us so much that all was given for us. Nothing was held back. Nothing. And so the third would be, so we have free, total, faithful. And so faithfulness is the third. And these build on each other. This is a progression. But when you are free to be in that relationship, free to love, and that person, you have gotten to the point where you know that the love is not forced internally or externally, and you can give totally to each other, then the third step would logically even be faithfulness. It's only a gift if it's a done deal. Even if you've never given anybody a birthday present and been like, okay, but I am gonna need that back next week because my friend needs it. You wouldn't. The person would be, well, just take it now. That's not even a gift. If every Christmas present you opened up had a little thing like a due date of when it wasn't your Christmas present anymore, those wouldn't be gifts. They would be on loan. And we do that with each other. We do that with marriages. And we're not going to go real deep in this time segment, But we do that with marriages. They are disposable to us. Years and years ago, Beyonce had a song, Irreplaceable. And her whole point was, I could have another you in a minute. Beyonce is a liar. There's never going to be another you. And if there's never another you, if you're unique and unrepeatable in all of creation, in all of eternity, and so am I, then if I give myself to you freely and completely, then it's only really love if I don't take myself back. If I don't say, you know what, I'm not getting what I was getting. You used to be nice to me. You used to love me. I used to get whatever. Our sex life used to be this and this. I used to get all these things, and I'm not anymore. So you know what, I'm out. Okay, but then you were married, or you were in a relationship with an ATM. Because as soon as, or maybe you waited out a long time. You know what, I've waited long enough for you to start giving. Well, then those sentences, those show to us where our own heart is at. Because if you truly gave yourself, then it's done. I have my wife's name tattooed on my wrist. I think it's Isaiah. There's a passage of scripture where God says, I will write your name on my palms. And there was a Jewish custom on the eve of his wedding. A Jewish man would get his wife's name tattooed or branded into his palm. And that was so that wherever he would go for the rest of his life, the world would know that he was not his own. That he was already given totally to somebody else. So much so, when I got this, I actually had people who knew me be like, oh man, never, like, in ink? What if it doesn't work out? And I want to be like, I hate you so much. I mean, because there's no way for it not to work out if you've just given yourself. That can't not work out. And this means that I've given myself totally to somebody. I'm gone. And I'm not saying like, and I'm off the market, because nobody was asking, nobody was shopping. But like, it's not a gift if it's not a done deal. And you could even say that the vow is where it makes love stay. It makes it actual love, the vow of faithfulness. Of like, and I won't take myself back. Otherwise, it's fickle and it's for right now. People talk about like leasing each other out instead of like matrimony. And so, like, real love, if it is free, then that will build to totality. You realize, you know what, I don't feel unsafe. I am like free in this relationship where it is just freedom. It's good. There's no external or internal compulsion. Then I want to give myself totally to you. And two people do that. And then that remains because of faithfulness. And how do we know this? Because these are the 4 marks of God's love. And God says, I will never leave you or forsake you. He does not take himself back. He does not. And so, same for us. It's the same. We can make the gift a done deal in a sacrament. And anything before that, I mean, you'll hear people like, well, we're supposed to get married next month, and I don't know if I want to, but we planned so much. No. If there's not a ring, it doesn't, I mean, you don't be flippant about it, but you have not given yourself in a sacrament, in love. And so there's no need to like feel bound to something like that. Those are the external pressures, like, oh gosh, I don't feel free then. So the free, total, faithful, and the last is fruitful. And this is the thing everybody hates. And again, I'm not going to actually go way into it right now. We'll build in the next one, in the next video. But real love bears fruit. If you've ever had a friendship, when you first start dating somebody, or you start liking them, even if you're not dating yet, it's a group of friends. If you've ever had even a group of friends where every time you hang out, you don't want the hangout times to end, because you feel like a better version of yourself when you're all together, or when you two are together. That's life-giving. That's fruitful. It bears fruit. You're together, and it brings life. And we've all had the reciprocal. We've all had it where somebody we hang out with, and every time you're done, you just feel worse. Like maybe you just criticize the whole time, and maybe any number of things. Then that's not a fruitful relationship. We came to a point in our marriage, Jason and I, we were infertile for 15 years. We had been married about 10 and a half years. We were living in the Caribbean when she was in med school. And one day I think we had hiked this waterfall, and we came back and we were in our apartment, and my wife was like, we live such a crazy, amazing life. And she started, this is what she started doing. She started going, I wish there were more of us. And I was like, honey, are you talking about you want to have children? And she's like, I think I am. I think that's what I'm getting at. I wish our love is so real and great that I wish there were more to share it with. And that's what real love does. It brings life. Real love is fruitful. It is. Real love brings life. You see the Holy Spirit hovering over the surface of the waters in Genesis, and the next thing you know, you have creation. You have the Holy Spirit descend upon Mary, and what do you have? The conception of the Savior of the world. You have the Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost being poured out on the church, and what do you get? You get the birthday of the church. Because life results from where God is. Where God is, there is life. Where His love is, there is life. Always. And so it's the same in our relationships. Let's see, we have 5 minutes. Okay, I can do this. Whether you're in 6th grade, whether you're a 12th grader, whether you're an adult, whatever, whoever you are listening, you're actually made to experience more joy than you have been experiencing. And the problem is the church comes along and holds a standard to sexuality, to relationships. There is a standard, and they hold it firm, and they won't let go. And so the world thinks that you're shaming folks who can't help it. And it's the exact opposite. I have this flashlight. I'll try to get it while I'm talking. My friend gave me this years ago. At the time, it was the best AA flashlight in the world, and he gave me this here. Okay, and it's yeah, there you go. And anyway, it does a bunch of functions. It'll if you do the right thumb press, it'll flash SOS for 3 days. It's amazing. It's a beacon. It's powerful. It's awesome. And I also, you've seen those gas station LED flashlights for like $1. One time, my son, when he was younger, when he was 7, he asked if I'd get him one at a gas station. So I got it, and I don't like an hour later, it was like broken and pieces were in the toilet, and it was just ruined. And he had the gall to come to me and be like, Dad, I broke my flashlight. Can I use yours? And I was like, you simple fool. When you're 30 years old, you're not touching my flashlight, Christian. Like, when you can come over with your kids, they're not touching my flashlight. Why? Because it's actually worth something. It has value to it. And you are the same. Humanity has more value than we give ourselves credit for. We treat ourselves like $1 junky gas station flashlights, and we're not. Everything we do in this flesh matters more than we will ever give it credence for. It matters, and the church won't back down from that. You're worth more than you treat yourself. I didn't used to treat my body well. When we lived overseas, there was no McDonald's, and I used to love McDonald's. I don't anymore, but I used to love them. And it had been like 4 months since I had any McDonald's, and I made it to Puerto Rico from the island, and I was alone coming home to do speaking, and I had my suitcases, and right outside the exit in the airport, there was a McDonald's. So I walked out with my little roller bag right around the exit, right to the front counter. I walked up and like, hi, and in Puerto Rico, they have a triple bacon cheeseburger. So I walked up and I was like, hola, I would like the triple bacon cheeseburger, supersized, large fries, large Coke. And they're like, okay. And then I took it and I sat down and I ate all of it without stopping. And then I got up and I walked back to the counter and I said, I would like a triple bacon cheeseburger meal, supersized with Coke. And they gave me it again. And I went and I ate the whole thing again. And then, not exaggerating in any way, I fell asleep for an hour on the table. I passed out from like nasty coma. And none of it's made up. I woke up, there was a wrapper stuck to my face, my luggage had fallen over. I had been asleep for an hour. I mean, I don't even know if they could have gone through my luggage. It wouldn't have mattered. And that was horrible. I should not have treated my body that way. So much so that it was like, okay, shut it down. Shut it down. He just ingested way too much of something we can't identify. And the thing is, I didn't treat my body like it was worth. We do that all the time with food, but we do it with relationships as well. And when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to love, when it comes to definitions of sexuality, love, marriage, all of it, when it comes to these things, there's a reason. And people won't take time to stop and think past just being angry. Oh, you're so judgy. Like, what if it's actually more than that, though? What if it's not being judgy? What if there's actually a standard that we should be held to because we matter? What if I won't let my daughter be treated a certain way because she matters? What if God the Father loves us so much, so freely, totally, and faithfully, that he wants us to be treated to the level that brings life and only life? And so in our bodies, that this is when we're living this out, we're speaking a language in our bodies. We're trying to speak the language of love. And so we have to start to ask ourselves a bunch of questions, which we'll get into next. We're at 30 minutes, and I'll pause it here. And so if you're doing any sort of small group or discussions, go back over free, total, faithful, and fruitful. I would recommend you delve into free, total, and faithful first before you get upset about fruitful, because fruitful also covers the fact that all contraception is an intrinsic evil. That contraception itself, contracept means against life. That real love wants life. But the reason I'm tagging this on the end isn't just to antagonize. It's so that, well, okay, I was tracking with you there. Yeah, real love, look, freedom sounds so good. And in totality, that makes sense, that I shouldn't hold anything back if it's really love and if it's safe and good. And faithfulness, I get it. I make sense. I don't want God to abandon me. I don't want my spouse. Nobody wants to be abandoned. I get it. And then you drop fruitfulness and people are like, okay, archaic. But if you're tracking with the first three, then there's reason to believe that the fourth might be like drastically important. So all I would ask is, if you're in small groups, maybe spend some time on the first three. Talk about free, total, faithful, fruitful. I'd be willing to bet you've all had experiences where this has impacted you. Do that, and then we'll delve more deeply into it next week. All right. Have a good life. See you on the other side.